Hi everyone, Macsen here. Welcome to an early look at the new story-based DLC coming out for Stellaris Synthetic Dawn, which is going to be out on the 21st of September 2017. I've been lucky enough to receive a press version, an early version of the DLC, a number of days before the release date, so that's how I'm able to bring this video to you early. And during this video I'm going to be mentioning all about the DLC, all of its headline features and what you can expect to find within it and only within it. There is of course an accompanying patch to the DLC though. It's a massive patch as well. It's called the Chapek patch version 1.8, and I'm not actually going to be discussing anything about that patch pretty much in this video, but I will do in an accompanying let's play that I intend to do and should be out around the same time as this video is out on YouTube. But back to Synthetic Dawn and its headline features, some of which you can actually see here. So the massive, well, a big headline feature is the ability to play as a machine empire. In fact, there are 4 different types of machine empires, which I'm going to be detailing to you a bit later on. First things first though, I should probably mention a bit about the really cool portraits that are added to the game and show some of them off, so I'm going to do that now. So there are 8 new portraits found within Synthetic Dawn, one for each and every species type, and you can see them before you. So the first one happens to be for the humanoids. Now, in a press preview copy of the DLC that I've got here, the skin for this robot actually hadn't been completed. It has already though. If you go on Martin Anwood's Twitter, you can actually see the finished skin already, and it will be finished by the 21st when the DLC is coming out. But yeah, it's currently unskinned for my version. The next version along is the mammalian robot. You can of course change the colors for all of these robots also if you happen to come within here and change the color variance settings. If we go back to here, the next one along is the reptilian machine or robots. Then we have the avian, which is pretty obvious with the wings on it. Next along is the arthropoid, then the molluscoid, the fungoid and the plantoid. Now supposedly with the plantoid robot you don't actually need the plantoids DLC to receive this. You will get this in Synthetic Dawn without that plantoids DLC. And the 9th and last one is already in the game already, so you've already got that if you have the Stellaris base game. Now, if you happen to be playing as a machine empire, well, you can choose whatever machine you want to play as right from the start. But if you happen to play as a biological one of these other species, say for instance that fungoid here, whenever you happen to build a robot, a droid or a synth, you would basically receive the corresponding robot to that species type. So fungoid, it would be that one for instance. But there is the ability to change the portraits later on. Basically you can get upgrade points for your machines if you're playing as a biological. In fact, even if you're playing as a machine empire, to tailor your machines in one way or another. So let's discuss the 4 different types of machine empires that you can now play as within the Synthetic Dawn DLC. 3 of them are actually added as pre-created empires that you can happen to play as should you wish, or even edit. You can see them here. So the first one is a determined exterminator machine empire. There are 3 different types of the 4 which you have to add a specific civic if we come in here. Yeah, if you add that civic you basically get a different type of machine empire. So the determined exterminator happens, well, let's read this, shall we? Born in fire, the machine intelligence's first move was to annihilate its organic creators in self-defense. So each of the machine empires has a different play style. They have their own unique government, buildings, civics and traditions and various other things. All of the machine intelligence empires do have a lot in common though, and this is mentioned here. So their leaders happen to be immortal, but they can break down. They're much more expensive than normal leaders for biologicals, 100% extra costs. The pops don't grow. You actually have to build the machines via the use of production, and I will be loading up a game coming up shortly to show all of this in much more detail. The machines have their own technologies, but they can't research robot or food technologies like the biologicals can, and they also cannot follow psionic, biological or synthetic ascension paths. They do actually get a couple of their own ascension picks though that you can select should you wish. I think the synthetic dawn actually adds one more ascension perk, which I'll show you a bit later if I remember, which anyone can pick. And yeah, there's a bit more details on machine intelligence there. Yeah, so the determined exterminators are basically very much like the Terminator machine consciousness, the Terminator film. So it's just all about literally wiping out anything that happens to be biological and sentient especially. So yeah, you actually gain bonus unity, I believe it mentions there, when you happen to purge any biological. So the next machine empire type are the rogue servitors. It mentions a product of a brief golden age. The machine intelligence originated in a planet-spanning servitor system that outlasted the decadent civilization it was created to serve. So this machine empire basically turns all of the organics into what it calls biotrophies and pampers those biotrophies. The machine empire itself gains extra influence the more biotrophies it happens to have within its empire. So that could definitely be very useful. All these machine empires have certain things in common as well, other than I've already mentioned. They're like a hive mind, so they are similar to the biological hive mind in many regards. And yeah, they play in a similar fashion if you've happened to play it as biological hive mind before. So they don't have ethics or factions. I also should mention, yeah, they have a huge list of civics here. It's not just these specific robot empire types like the rogue servitor or the exterminators. They have civics just like the normal biologicals do, which do a number of things. The robots themselves, though, have traits just like the biologicals as well. So these will be very familiar to you. They're very similar to the biological ones, given a boost in one area or another. Yeah, they're all slightly different, but very similar to the normal traits. So yeah, that is the biological pamperers, whose name I've just forgotten. Servitors, is it? Let's take a look at the next one along. So the next machine empire that you have to select a specific civic for are the driven assimilators. These are a machine empire that are obsessed with survival through diversification. Machine intelligence seeks to erase the line between itself and everything and everyone else. So they start with cyborg population, organics of course, who were turned into cyborgs, and xenopops are automatically purged over time that they happen to acquire, but you can turn those population, those xenos, into cyborgs should you wish, and give them full citizenship. And those population types can work in a normal fashion on your worlds, picking up resources. I believe they can even be leaders within your driven assimilator empire. We'll take a look at them coming up shortly in more detail though. The last of the machine empires, you basically don't need to pick a civic for. So let's take that one off. This is a standard machine empire where you're not selecting one of those three I've already mentioned. So this empire actually works in a slightly different way as well. And I also think they have slightly different interpretation as well to those other three I've already shown, how they respond to biologicals. I think they have, in some regards, even more options, like you can have them as slaves, I believe, for instance, which the other empires can't. They either purge or pamper or turn them into cyborgs, all of the other three do. But yeah, that's the standard machine empire, and I'll be looking at them as well as the others coming up shortly. The next big headline feature after the machine empires, though, is the ability to change the advisor voice found within your game. So this is definitely one of my favorite features from the new DLC. Before, you would basically just have one single voice, and that was the robot Via, I believe it was called, which would let you know everything which is going on within your empire. If I happen to click original, you'll get a reminder, if you're familiar with Stellaris, how that sounded.
Did you know that my internal power core has an effective blast yield of over 5 megatons of TNT in the event of a catastrophic overload?
But now there has actually been added a ton of new voices to the game, one for every different ethic type, and also for hive minds and machine intelligence empires, which added within Synthetic Dawn. You don't actually have to use them, or any one of those, though, based on the selections you pick. You can actually pick a custom one at any point within the game. So for instance, your ethics may start as egalitarian or xenophile, based on government.
System diagnostic completed. All systems nominal.
Or machine intelligence, for that matter.
Democracy sure is an endless struggle.
Whoa! Space! Just think about it!
But yeah, you can choose to change them at any point.
The only way to make peace with others is to make peace with yourself.
Boundless horizons, endless learning opportunities, bleeding edge discoveries, limited legroom.
And I'll be showing you how you can do that within the game coming up shortly, and I'll also allow you to listen to the rest of these then as well. Before I do that, though, I should mention a few more features before we actually get into a game. So two of the machine empire types, specifically the servitors and the assimilators, require you to pick a biological species, which is presumably your former masters, as a second species within your empire. And there's actually a new option which allows you to do that here. So you can pick the appearance of your former masters and their name and the name list you happen to want to use, and you can even give them traits. The assimilators actually start as cybernetic, but you can pick traits in a normal fashion. It appears here. The biological trophies for the servitors don't get this. But yeah, some of these traits are actually well worth picking depending on what machine empire you are. The simulators actually don't use food, so it's pointless in picking a Guerrerian, for instance. And the bio trophies, certain things don't work very well for them. In fact, any of the tile bonuses are pretty useless because they just use Unity and that's it. And I can show more of that coming up when I actually start playing a game. This may affect the syncretic evolution civic as well for biologicals. Only biologicals can pick that. I presume you don't need Synthetic Dawn to get the change to syncretic evolution. I'm not 100% though on that. Right, I think it's about time though that I actually showed off one of these, if not all of these machine empires, and come into an actual game. So let's select this one and take a look at these guys. So there's a bit of a backstory for this machine empire type, assimilators here. Let's have a look at the actual planet they start on though, and you can see some of the cyborgs species that they happen to start with there, and the homolog assimilator machine empire populations there. You can come in here and create these. They're a bit more expensive in this case than normal because of a negative trait they happen to have in this instance, but of course you can create your own empire. You don't have to select that trait for them. And yeah, those are the buildings that you start with. I'm actually going to use a console code. So let's see what you can get with them. If I type this in correctly, hopefully. There we go, everything's unlocked. So if we come back in here, you can see some of the buildings that they can get later on in the game if you happen to research stuff. So they have an animal evaluation laboratory, which looks like a replacement for the normal zoo. That's standard with the biologicals as well. Probability engine, so there's a special building there, and a singularity core, and of course all of these normal buildings. Spare parts depot, that looks like a better version of the Frontier Clinic. I think it's actually been renamed in the Chapek patch, Frontier Clinic, but yeah, that's what it looks like, a better version of. It makes the robots build a bit quicker. Yeah, all of the standard buildings of course upgrade in a normal fashion as well. Something which is very different, I think I mentioned it, yeah, they don't have factions. You can have a look here though, to have a look at the rules in a bit more detail. And yeah, the traits there. Something that's very different with them though is the, well, pretty different, is the traditions, the unity. So some of these just wouldn't make sense, and they've actually changed some of these because of that. For instance, harmony's changed to synchronicity. So for instance, you've got machine leaders are less likely to break down. The drone network there. This is building speed. Yeah, some of these are a little bit different to the normal biological layouts. We've got versatility, which replaces, I've forgotten what it's normally called. It's the one for federations though. It looks as if you can actually form a federation there still, but I imagine there's more robot related stuff in here. And not all of the machine empires actually have exact same layout. I believe the exterminators have different ones here, but I'll show that coming up. Yeah, so that's the assimilator. So I should probably also show you species rights as well. So they definitely wrecked in different ways depending on, yeah, in regard to the biologicals. So these ones, for instance, you can integrate them into the machine intelligence. First of all, you have to assimilate them. Slaves, I think, well, you can't, for slaves you can't be a determined exterminator, a driven assimilator, or a servitor, but presumably a standard machine empire can have slaves, if I'm understanding that correctly. Yeah, but looks like there's drone option as well for the cyborgs. Should we take a look at a different machine empire then? One that's see the differences between them. So next, let's have a look at the exterminators. Okay, so here are the exterminators. So you can see they don't start with any biologicals. They've already purged them in their backstory on their homeworld. I've just unlocked all of the technologies. So if we come in here, you can actually see, yeah, that's a bit different to the assimilators, I think. They have a war factory building, but much of this is pretty similar. If we come into the Unity, I think their domination tree is a bit different, because normally it would be to do with having vassals and purifier types like the exterminators. Yeah, they're not going to use vassals, are they? So they have a few different perks in here, but much of the rest is similar or identical to the machine empires, other machine empires. Something I haven't mentioned yet is the new templates. This is actually added within the Chapek, but with the machine empires, being able to modify the machines is actually, of course, only available if you have Synthetic Dawn. That's the only way you can change them, or have them in your game, in fact. So if you come in here, yeah, you can create variations of different robots and add all of these traits, depending on how many trait points you have left and trait picks you have left. Yeah, you can actually do this with normal robots as well, like robots. Well, actually, I'm not sure about robots and droids, but with synths, you definitely can. And their traits are actually very similar to the machines' traits, but I believe the synths are probably a bit better when it comes to generation of resources via tiles, and these are much more to do with being rulers of an empire. So they have things like ruler, opinion pact, which the synths don't, for instance. But yeah, a lot of these traits you can also use for the synths. Let's have a look at the Ascension perks, which I haven't showed you yet, some of the new ones. So if we come down here, Synthetic Age is literally only for the machine empires and only found... I think you actually need Utopia as well to use this, because all the Ascension perks are added within Utopia expansion. But yeah, you need Synthetic Dawn, of course, for this, and that adds extra machine modification points, which we just saw then. And it's actually, some of the Unity picks actually add those as well, extra modification points. Modify species special project, reducing cost there. And this one's rather cool, machine worlds. So that basically gives extra resource output if you change your world into a machine world via terraforming. Now, not all of the machine types would probably want to use that. For instance, if you happen to be in a simulator or a servitor and you have biologicals on your worlds, perhaps creating a machine world, if you have biologicals there, yeah, they wouldn't be able to live there anymore, I think, if I understand that correctly. So next up are the servitors, which, as you can see here, start with biologicals on their worlds. And yeah, basically they are being kept as biotrophies within organic sanctuaries, which I think are automatically made when you get a new biological trophy. If we unpause and turn the speed up, you can see that this population will actually start to grow. You can get more of them. I think the assimilators can't grow their organic population. They're just stuck with what they've got or what they acquire, which is more the case. And yeah, so that's growing, and they actually do make use of food, so you have to build nutrient paste facilities to keep them fed. I've unlocked all the technologies again, so we can have a look in here if there's any differences. Well, the aforementioned nutrient paste facility happens to be there, and other regards, yeah, it's pretty similar. The species rights, let's have a look at the biological trophies in more detail. So you can see, yeah, that's the only option you can pick when you're this type of machine empire. I'm not sure if it's a minor bug in this press version, but normally you would have mandatory pampering. No military service. Yeah, they basically don't do anything apart from get unity and of course get extra influence and extra robot resource production based on the percentage of those you happen to have. You're probably going to want 40%, which is the capped amount if possible, I imagine, with these guys. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think any of these are particularly different to the ones we've seen. This is a more friendly option than the Exterminators here, though, definitely. And I believe they have the robot modding, of course. What else do they have? Ascension perks. That's the new one, though. Shared Destiny. So what this one does is subject integration influence costs, and that's, I believe, is available for biologicals and machine empires. So yeah, I think there are 3 new Ascension perks added within Synthetic Dawn, 2 for the machines and 1 for everyone. So the last in machine empires is the standard machine empire that doesn't use a civic choice to turn it into servitors, assimilators or exterminators. This machine empire, although you might think it would be the least interesting in some ways because yeah, it's not so specialized. Yeah, I think it might actually be pretty interesting. Problem is, I can't easily show it off within this video because I'd have to probably play a bit. They don't start with a biological, and I believe they might have more options with biologicals than some of the other empires, put it that way. But yeah, I can't show it to you sadly, so you'll have to play it yourself to find out. So yeah, that's the normal machine empire. There's a few things I should mention before I wrap this video up though. There's actually been a change to the crisis event for machines as well. It used to be an internal event. Now I believe it's an external event, but you don't actually need Synthetic Dawn for that. What is specific to Synthetic Dawn is now an internal robot insurrection. You can possibly have if you are a biological empire. So basically if you have certain computer tech, I think it's sapient AI, and you have synths in your empire, it makes it much more likely if you haven't given them full rights and you have them in servitude that you will have a machine uprising at some point, but it's completely random. And yeah, like I mentioned, the crisis is an external machine empire who basically come and try to conquer you, and that can happen at any time basically, especially if you increase the crisis strength. But yeah, that's for everyone. That's who has 1.8 Chapek, not just Synthetic Dawn. Other than that, there's Fallen Empire, a new one. Within Synthetic Dawn, there's actually a specific machine consciousness that is a Fallen Empire. I believe they are malfunctioning. Can't really show that to you unless I muck around and play for a bit. So yeah, you'll have to take my word on that. I'm sure there'll be yeah, I think one of the dev diaries covered it, so you could go and check that out. I'll leave a link in the description for that, which goes into more details about it. And the last thing which I haven't got to show off yet, I forgot about it, is the advisors. So we've got more of these to go through. Let's
Dissent is forcefully discouraged.
try the authoritarians one, which is absolutely amazing. There's also the xenophobes.
Xeno scum.
And you can change all of these within your game at any time here. So yeah, you don't. Even if you're a machine empire, you could pick something else, for instance, or whatever you are, you could pick something else.
Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war.
Faith manages.
The self is a prison from which only we have escaped.
So I hope you enjoyed this video on the main features of the Synthetic Dawn story-based DLC coming out for Stellaris on the 21st of September. Like I believe I mentioned earlier on in this video, I'm planning on doing a Let's Play. I haven't completely decided what race I'm going to use yet. I'm even considering doing something a bit weird, starting as a biological empire that actually tries to get a machine empire uprising, because if you do get a machine empire uprising, you can actually decide to play as the machine empire that rebels against you. So that would be something pretty interesting to do. I am considering it. Or of course I could perhaps play as one of the 4 machine empires. Whatever I do decide to do for that Let's Play, there's going to be a ton of Synthetic Dawn mentioned within that Let's Play. And of course the patch which accompanied it, the Chapek 1.8 patch, which adds a ton of things to the game. Balance and new things and a whole lot more. Yeah, that would take a lot longer video than this probably to discuss all of that within that patch. But yeah, I'll do that within the Let's Play. So, like I mentioned, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go check out that Let's Play when it's out, which is probably now when you're watching this. And also, leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. That would massively help me out. Helps to boost my videos in YouTube search rankings so people can actually find my videos in the first place. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe as well. Then you'll know when future content is coming out. Also, if you have any comments or questions about this video, please ask away in the comments section. I respond to comments and questions no matter, well, questions specifically, no matter how old a video is. And the last thing I should mention, or last couple of things, I have a Twitter page these days. Go and check my Twitter page out if you fancy following me on there. And I also have a Patreon page. Patreon is a service that facilitates people supporting channels like my own via monetary support. So I could really do with more help if I'm to continue making these videos into the future. It's kind of in jeopardy actually if I'm still doing this in 2018 at the moment. So yeah, please check out my Patreon page if you want to help to support me and the channel. And yeah, thank you if you do decide to do that, and thank you even more if you decide to become a patron of mine. And I'd especially like to thank my existing patrons who have been a massive help. Really very grateful to you for being my patron. Right, that's it then for this video. Thanks for watching. Go check out that Let's Play I've done for the new Synthetic Dawn DLC and Chapet patch, and I'll see you there.
Settlement procedure initiated.